Hi, my name is Genevieve. I am a spiritual medium and an artist. Thank you for visiting my channel. In this video, I'm going to talk about a very common concern that people have when they think about going to see a spiritual medium or a psychic or a tarot reader for a reading, and that is, what if something really scary comes through? Something I don't want to hear or something very dark? And that is a valid concern for sure, because occasionally something like that will happen. But in my long experience of being both a customer and a practitioner as spiritual medium and psychic, for the most part, any type of spiritual therapy is going to be empowering and based in love and understanding with somebody who is usually an empath. People like myself who are sensitive to the spirit world and very sensitive to energy, we generally are pretty empathic people. And that's certainly not to say that there are not exceptions. And it's also not to say that certain people don't have their own personal issues that shape or affect the reading that they give to the client. It's certainly true that every spiritual practitioner in any profession, really, especially professions which are more on the soft side, where soft skills are involved and which are more subjective, then what you receive from the reader always goes through the reader's own lens of understanding in their own mind. So, for example, a reader who is blocked on the subject of relationships and doesn't have long relationships or doesn't have good relationships or has a block, maybe a lot of trauma, something like this, it could potentially affect the advice that they give if it's in a therapeutic context. And it can also affect on a subconscious level the information that they receive from spirit, which is to be passed on to the client. Now, we all strive to be as objective as possible and to put all of our own feelings, thoughts, beliefs, judgments, and wishes aside and really be a pure channel and try to convey with as much fidelity as possible the information that's coming from spirit. Spirit is high consciousness. Spirit is close to source energy, or it is source energy. It's very pure in vibration. It is love. It is always put in such a way that it is for your benefit. And that's usually because for example, when I work with clients, I'm almost always working with their guides and their spiritual team. That can include angels, it can include their deceased loved ones. So those are people who really care about my client. And the guides know my client inside out, usually better than the client even knows themselves. And I've been that client, and I know that my guides know way more about me than I even know about myself. So a good, reputable spiritual medium or psychic puts their intention to connect with the highest level of source energy, of spirit, of high love-based consciousness as they can. And you, as the client, then receive the best job that they can do to bring through that pure essence and understanding. But as I said, we're all subjective in this role. And so my advice to minimize the chances of having a negative experience with a reader, which is quite rare, to be honest, because, like I said, most spiritual mediums and psychics are usually really empathic, lovely, caring people. But it can happen. To reduce that risk, do pay attention to the energy, the feeling you get from the person. Be discerning. Check them out. Make sure that you like them, that you are pretty much on the same page with them. And it's always, you're never going to know the full story with them. You're never going to know where their blinkers are, where their blind spots are, where their limited beliefs are, which might affect the information that you receive as a client. But you can do your best to get to know the person. Maybe they have a YouTube channel like I do, and you can watch their content and you can feel whether you resonate with that or not. Or word of mouth is also a great way to find somebody, who other people personally have had a good experience with. But definitely pay attention to their own stories in their own life, and maybe they might have blockages which might interfere with your reading. The other thing I want to say is that sometimes confronting information can come out of a reading because you are looking for guidance. You're looking for the source, the higher level spiritual understanding, which is outside of your boundaries. And sometimes, the best information which can help your soul grow might actually be to confront your patterns, which are negative and not so good for you, like patterns of denial or patterns of bad behaviors that you've become blind to, things like that. So the reader should always do their best to cushion that information and deliver it in the way that's going to be the most palatable. And sometimes we are given the message in a really direct way, and that has a purpose as well, because the guides are deciding this is what we need to do to wake this person up or push them out of their comfort zone, something like that. So do be open that sometimes, and it doesn't happen most of the time, but sometimes a reading will definitely be a little bit hard to hear. And I have received information that's hard to hear in spiritual readings, and I've also had to give information that was hard for the person to hear. And I just have faith that if I am true to what I'm really feeling and perceiving, receiving from source energy, my intention is always to be of service to the client's highest good. And I just trust in what I get, and I deliver it with as much understanding as possible. If you have fear about receiving bad news in the reading, my advice is check out the person that you're going to. Really make sure that you feel in resonance with them, comfortable with them. You feel that they are similar to you, or that they are at a level where they have enough personal life experience, or they've done enough work on themselves to get past their own blocks, that they can be a really good conduit of understanding for higher information from a higher source, to be delivered to you in a way that actually really helps you in your life. So that's my advice for today. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in my next video.